Today I'm working on a Shindaiwa T272X. This is the heavy-duty model with gear reduction in the head so that it can run a saw blade. The machine is in outstanding condition considering it's probably 25 to 30 years old. It does not start. I will take you through the process of diagnosing and repairing it. This was $10 on the local Craigslist, and being a Shindaiwa fan, I could not resist. Let's take a look at the fuel filter. Like brand new. Fuel smells excellent. My fuel filter extraction tool is simply a coat hanger, bent with a curve, little handle to hold on to. I've been using it about 10 years, works great. Let's take a look at the air filter situation. Brand new. Spark plug is next. Loose. It's a Husqvarna spark plug. Looks like it was running fine, maybe a little on the lean side when it was last run. It's starting to get kind of clean in this area. A little bit clean and dry, which would indicate heat and a lean fuel mixture condition. We'll do a compression test next. Zero out the gauge. Choke off. Hold full throttle. Oh, it's got no compression. £75. So it's had a partial seizure. The rings are either damaged or they're stuck on the exhaust side of the piston. So we'll take the muffler off and take a peek inside. To get the muffler off, we remove this cover. The cover for the carburetor can stay on. I usually don't use my power tool on Allen screws because I don't want to risk stripping them out, and especially on a machine this old, I don't want to apply that kind of torque to the aluminum threads in the engine case. There are two screws up on the front of the machine that face upwards. So we'll get those off. And it's now loose. This boot right here needs to get pried off and then tucked down through the opening. So the spark plug wire goes down inside through the top of this. There we go. Now we can take off the muffler. Screws are loose. Someone's been messing around with this. I think this went into the local dealer and was deemed not repairable. Okay, so there was a screw at the bottom here, going through that hole right there. I'll take the guard off. And we'll take a look inside the exhaust port here. See if I can give you a full view of what it looks like inside there. That's the piston. Pretty dark. Start by disconnecting the fuel hoses. And we'll take the carburetor screws out. Fuel tank vent out. We'll take the intake block off. We don't need to. The cylinder would lift off without this being removed. And now we have access to the 4 cylinder base screws down through the holes in the top of the cylinder. These screws will sometimes get filled with debris, so if that's the case, you can use compressed air and a tool like a dental pick to clean the top of the screw heads out. Use a really good quality Allen tool for this so that you don't strip them. It takes a lot of force to break them loose, and I always break all 4 loose before I start to unthread just one. And this will take out the cylinder and the ignition coil together. And now we can see what happened to the piston. Broken piston ringland. And here's the view on the muffler side. Very gouged up. And even some parts of the piston down inside the crankcase. This is definitely a machine worth rebuilding. One thing to test for before ordering parts for an old machine like this is crankshaft end play, or the bearings wiped out. So we can grab the fan here and try to shove it in and out. It does not move at all. So the crank bearings are still excellent. So that's a good sign. It had a quick sort of light seizure, shut down and then wouldn't restart. The rest of the engine didn't get damaged. So this will wind up being a great candidate for the rebuild. I'll show you the inside of the cylinder. That's the exhaust side. You can see where the piston was beginning to scrape. What makes Shindaiwa equipment so outstanding is how hard the cylinder walls are in their machines. Back in the day, they were rated at 500 hours and you replaced the rings, and then at 1,000 hours you replaced the piston, and that at the next 500 hours you would put a set of rings in it. And you can see that although there are some lines sort of etched in the chromium, it is not damaged. I can run my finger across it and it's nice and smooth. So this machine can be rebuilt without replacing the cylinder. Parts have arrived, so let's get this engine cleaned up and reassembled. There is a small O-ring style snap ring retainer for the wrist pin on either side of the piston. And I'm going to see if I can get that out using a very small screwdriver. Looks like this one's going to be too jammed up on this side. So I will go to the other side of the piston. Let's see how it goes on this side. Here's the end of it right there. As you can see, I've started that end. There we go. With that retainer gone, we can drive the piston wrist pin out in this direction from the other side. So I'll apply a little coil here to get things moving. Usually you can use a screwdriver blade that's a little bit wider, and it'll hang up in the hollow center of the wrist pin. And you can sort of twist back and forth and get it moving. You can also use a small drift and the handle of a screwdriver to pound the wrist pins out. There we go. And we only need to get it past the top of the connecting rod, and then the piston will lift out after that. It's hung up on carbon, so we'll apply a little more coil. There we go. And out it comes. There's a needle bearing and a couple of spacer washers. So we'll want to get those cleaned up. We've already removed the gasket and cleaned up the surface of the engine case. So we're just about ready to start reassembly. These are stepped, and the steps go to hold either side of that needle bearing like that. There's the part number for the kit that includes everything, so I don't need to clean up the needle bearing because there it is with the washers, the little two wrist pin end clips, and piston rings, plus the new piston. Excellent. During the installation of a piston, always keep an eye out for the arrow or other such marker that points towards the muffler. The new piston will have that same marker, and the muffler is on that side of this engine, the way I have it sitting on the workbench here. So that's how that piston will be installed. Check over the piston to make sure that there's no burrs or other machining issues on the bottom of the skirt or around the holes for the wrist pin. I like to put my piston rings on before I install, and you will see there are these dowels that prevent the piston rings from rotating, and they're staggered. The rings have a cutout in them, you can see there. So the cutout goes underneath the dowels. And generally, you can just get your thumbs against them and pry the ring apart and pop it on. If you have rings that are in a configuration where one ring is dark and the other ring is a silver or chrome looking, the chrome ring goes on the top. Usually on two-stroke it's the same rings. So you can just, these are pretty soft, so I'll just spread the whole ring. And now it's on, but I want that lower position, so I'll repeat the process. And then you have that stepped area of the ring on either side of that dowel pin. And once they are compressed by the cylinder, they'll be like that. We'll do this top ring the same way. Okay, ready to install. We'll put the wrist pin needle bearing in first. Put a little bit of engine oil on it. This is automotive engine oil. And that can just set into the top of the connecting rod. I'm dipping those washers in some engine oil as well. That'll sort of stick them in place. And then for the piston, what I'm going to do is put on one of the retainer rings for the wrist pin. I'm going to put the retainer ring on this side so that I can drive the wrist pin through the piston from the starter side like that. So these just go into a groove that you see there, and you can kind of walk them in. If you keep your thumbs over them and get one of the ends hooked, you can usually get them in without firing them off into the universe and losing them. There we go. Be sure and check your work, because if you don't get that little retaining ring seated in the groove in the piston, it will come out and destroy the cylinder. Okay. Time to put the piston in. Put some engine oil on the new wrist pin, and we'll get it started. There we go. It's going to be very tight, so we'll have to drive it through. Time to install the piston. And again, arrow pointing towards muffler. And we'll align the hole through the piston with the wrist pin. And see if we can't tap that wrist pin through. I'm looking to see the wrist pin start to hang up in that washer so that I know that I'm getting close to the right angles. And now with the wrist pin into that needle bearing and washer area, I can drive it the rest of the way through. It still needs to come all the way through to the edge here, so I'll use a tool that will set down in there and safely drive it the rest of the way in, and then we'll put that clip on. So same process, get the retaining ring hooked in, and then you can leverage against it. I probably can't do it with the camera in the way, but there we go. So just make sure that it is seated in the groove here. There's a chance that you didn't get the wrist pin all the way through, and so the retaining ring will be setting in position, but it's not in the channel. And then you fire up the machine, and after X amount of runtime, it comes out and destroys your new cylinder. So anyway, that is nice. So we'll get the cylinder prepped and ready to put on. Time to put the cylinder on. I've put automotive engine oil on the needle bearing there and run some oil down into the crankshaft bearings on either side of the case there and there. And I found a piece of clothing fabric string wrapped around the front shaft there behind the fan and sort of snagged up into that front crankshaft seal. So that's been cleaned out. I have cleaned up the inside of the cylinder. I can't see it very good here. I guess you can. With some emery cloth and using some Croil as cutting oil. Found that that port right there was completely clogged with carbon and non-functional, so dug that out, cleaned it up. The exhaust port equally plugged with carbon, and I've scraped that out, so that's clean. So I will put a little engine oil in the cylinder and a little on the piston and set that base gasket in place. I've rotated the rings so they are in their little doweled positions on the exhaust side, so they're ready to go. There's the part number for the cylinder base gasket. Don't use anything on these gaskets because they have this silver metallic finish to them, so that becomes the sealant once they're crushed. This one isn't directional, many of them are, so when you're installing a base gasket, always pay attention to the internal configuration of that gasket, because sometimes it's cut out for things like, you can see that little channel there, and you don't want to cover up those channels by putting the gasket on upside down. They're also sometimes thinner here and thicker at this end to compensate for some offset to the piston, etc. So just a little bit of engine oil on this skirt, not too much because I don't want to risk getting oil onto my gasket. The gaskets are very fragile, so if I get oil on it, there's not going to be any good way to really clean it off without damaging that silver finish. And I want to make sure that my rings are in the right locations. The bottom one is, the upper one wasn't. And we'll move this to 12 o'clock. So it sticks up fully. And then it can sit there, I think, pretty well. I'll do the same thing with the oil into the cylinder off camera here. Shindaiwa does a taper on the bottom of their cylinders, so you don't need to use a standard ring compressor. You can see that beveled area there. That will compress the rings as it slides on. So usually you can just press and just gently rock a little bit. Give it a chance to start moving those rings. Don't put too much force on it or you'll break the rings. And if you feel like a ring is hanging up, you can use your fingernail to, there you go, reach underneath there. And that's it. So let's carefully recenter that. We'll hold the flywheel and continue sliding. When you're doing this, make sure to have the cylinder squared up so that you're not twisting the cylinder as you put it on in order to line up the base bolt holes. And then it will settle down once the edges get to the right spot. There we go. Okay. So we'll make sure that's good. I'm going to rotate the fan out of the way because the magnets are up. There we go. Okay. A better method would be to take the ignition coil off of it. Time to install the cylinder bolts. There is a long one and 3 short ones. The long one goes into this upper front corner where there's a boss that's raised and the mounting for the lower coil position. I always put Loctite Red 272 on the threads because I don't want my base bolts to be coming loose with heat cycles of the engine. These will drop in from above, and sometimes, depending on machine, you can get them through. The long one has to be dropped through. And what I'm going to do, because I need things to line up, is I'm going to take the tool, the Allen that fits in it, and I'm just going to very loosely sort of start spinning them in, just a few threads, because I want that base gasket to line up and not be damaged by just forcing the screws through. And you can see there is quite a bit of wiggle room in this assembly. It will self-center a little bit on the screws, but you can see it's still pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to push the cylinder back against the screws, and I'm going to watch this line right here and make it so it is straight and true. So we'll do the bolts diagonally now, because that's how you tighten things. And I'm just doing a little bit at a time because I want even crush on that very fragile base gasket. So they are nicely bottomed out now. So now I'll tighten them down for real. Okay, we'll put the exhaust and the intake on next, and I'm going to hand rotate the fan here to make sure it clears and that I have air gap. And I do, so I don't need to do anything with the coil. We'll pull it over with the starter. That's nice. Time to install the intake block. These old machines with these great phenolic or Bakelite intake blocks, the intake blocks are very bulletproof. They generally don't break or warp. This one has a position for fuel tank vent here, so it's going to be placed like that on the cylinder. There is a gasket with a 90-degree shape to it. And your part number. This goes against the cylinder. And then a much wider gasket goes between the intake block and the carburetor. And your part number. Alright, time to mount the intake block. When you're putting intake blocks on two-strokes, pay attention to the pulse port hole on the gasket. Line that up with the pulse port area that's on the cylinder, and line it up with the pulse port opening on the intake block. So in this situation, it mounts like that. So we will drop the mounting bolts through it, get them to go through the intake gasket. I'm going to put a little red Loctite on them. I don't want these coming loose and creating an intake leak that burns up an engine. I'll set this in place, use the top one as a guide, and get a few threads started on it. That will allow the assembly to pivot. We didn't lose our gasket, and we'll seat the lower screw and get it threaded in. Make sure that our gasket is captured, and then we can install it and fully tighten the screws. It's important to do this evenly because this is a Bakelite or phenolic plastic block, and if you were to tighten it down with it crooked or tighten one screw down before you tighten the other one fully, you could break the block. And these only thread into the cylinder head about 1/4 of an inch, so you have to be careful with how much torque you put on them by hand when you're tightening them, or you'll pull the threads on the aluminum cylinder head. Okay, that's installed. We'll do the muffler next. The muffler has a shield around the front of it, so it's going to mount like that with 2 long screws and then a short screw that goes through both at the very bottom. It also has a backing plate, and the backing plate goes against the engine. There's a gasket on either side of it, and it protects the fuel tank. So when all assembled, it looks like that. There's the part number for the gasket. You need 2 of them, and they just look like that. I'll start with a bit of red Loctite. On the 2 main screws, there is this shorter screw that goes into the bottom, and it is threading into this location on the fan housing. And what we'll do, because the assembly sort of stacks together, is we'll put the shield in place. We'll drop the long screws through it. And we'll add the first gasket, and then the metal guard, and the second gasket, and then bring that to the cylinder head. I'm going to look over the top of it where I can see how these long screws are engaging and get those threading on. And I'll take advantage of how loose that assembly is right now, and underneath here get that bolt started. And what I'll do in order to get it in there is put it onto the Allen tool, and then use the Allen tool to fish it down in there. And just very light pressure to get it to thread in while wiggling the muffler assembly, because I don't want things cross-threaded. And that's just snug, I haven't tightened it yet. And then we'll come up top here, and we'll finish tightening these. These go very deep through a flange on the cylinder head, so these can be tightened nicely, and the red Loctite will keep them secure for the life of the machine. So that one's bottomed out. We'll fully tighten this one, and it bottoms out. And now we'll do the little one. Okay. Exhaust on these comes out of this shroud right here and out through the side of the plastic engine cover. Time to install the top engine cover. We'll start by taking the kill wires and attaching to the coil. This kill wire needs to come down and come out of a notch in the engine cover that's on this side. And if you look at the underside of the engine cover, you'll see this path, and there's a notch right there. So when you put this all back together, make sure that that wire comes through that and doesn't get crushed against the metal of the engine, or the machine won't start. The other kill switch wire will go here with a bolt through it. So we'll feed the spark plug wire through, bring that rubber shield up through, and when the wire is through the channel, you'll be able to scoot it back and forth. I put tri-flow on the threads of these screws because I don't want them getting stuck in the aluminum engine housing. So we'll just leave that one snug for now. There's a wire retainer hoop that goes on this front one. And we'll leave that one just snug for now. There's a channel in this rubber grommet that you can feed into the engine cover and then seat it all the way around. The machine needs this, and if you have a machine that doesn't have it, it needs to be replaced and installed so that the machine is blowing wind from the fan through the cylinder and not out of a giant 1.5 inch square opening. And when that's fully seated, it'll be flat all the way around, and you can wiggle a little bit because the channel is engaged. There are 2 more screws through the back that mount to the starter and into the engine case. Next part of the repair is to re-kit the carburetor. We'll have a new primer bulb. This Walbro uses the small version. There's your part number. And the kit of soft parts. Pretty crispy. Be ashamed to put an engine together with a new piston and then reuse a diaphragm like that. It's not bad, I just don't want to risk it. Let's see how the pump looks. Usually as they age and they've been exposed to being left sitting like this machine has with fuel in them, the pump flaps will curl, and you can see that flap right there bent upwards. So that's a pump that won't work. So you can prime the engine and it'll fire up, but usually it won't keep running because these are supposed to travel up and down, alternating based on the pulse of this diaphragm, and the diaphragms get hard and the pump material curls in. So if you have a machine that will pump up and start and then dies after a moment or two, it's typically a fuel pump that doesn't work. And you can duplicate it by pumping the carburetor back up, firing the machine back up, and it dies again. There is a gasket underneath them. Usually the kits contain more than one gasket because there are several different configurations. that jet is held in with an O-ring, and usually that O-ring is shrunk enough that the jet will fall out. So pay attention to that and don't drop it and lose it while you're working on the carburetor. Time to reassemble. I blew through that with carburetor cleaner and opened the throttle so I could see that out of that white tower in there, it did spray a nice volume of fuel sort of off to the side in a fan pattern. So there's our pump gasket. Now this kit only came with one gasket for the pump. I think that's because I used the Shindaiwa part number, so I got the specific kit for this carburetor. Had I used the Walbro number for this, I would have gotten a more complete kit and it would have come with the extras. So it goes gasket first because the pump flaps run against the bottom of this assembly. Just rest it in place, make sure you're flat all the way around and the gaskets aren't sticking out strangely. I'm going to reuse that gasket because it's in place and in good condition, and they are usually very stuck down and require a bunch of extra work to remove them. And these go with the metal flower facing down. And there's two register pins there, and the piece with the check valve goes next. And this little end fits like that. And again, just loose, check the alignment of the gaskets, and we can put the cover back on with a new primer bulb. The primer bulbs just push through from the bottom, they're self-sealing. The end of the metal plate goes around the end of that plastic check valve housing that has the little pop out on it. Time to install the carburetor. There is your gasket number, gasket shape, and just like the gasket for the intake block, make sure that the pulse port lines up with the port on the intake block. This one fits like this with the guard over the fuel tank vent location like that. Because the throttle cable runs through the opening in the carburetor guard cover, you have to sort of put the cover on first, and then throttle cable through the adjuster mount, hold full throttle on the carburetor, then release, check function, red Loctite on the screws, and then feed the screws through the carburetor. So you have an entire assembly, and then mount the gasket on the back like that. And because there's a whole stack here and that cable is providing kind of tension at an angle, I like to just get the screws started. Very little pressure on the tool. I'm just looking to see things start to line up. Felt a little hang up there as I was slowly tightening, and it was the fuel hose had gotten between the two assemblies. Now we can tighten up. And that's why I start with just a light amount of pressure. And we have full carburetor function, full choke function. The supply goes to the barbed fitting. and the return to the smooth fitting. Air filter is next. The interior guard has that flange right there on it, and that flange just goes over one of those two opening areas, right over the lip. The air filter has 3 pins that stick out of it. Those face forward, and the filter presses in until it's flush. It's not flush, the cover won't go on. Cover grabs a tab at the 12 o'clock position, so you hook over that. Last item on the list is the spark plug. I put a little copper anti-seize on it. I'm using 40-to-1 mix because I want a little extra lubrication protection for that new piston and the piston ring. Time for a test run. Ignition on, choke on. We have fuel pumping through the carburetor and good pressure there. I'll hold full throttle. Half choke. Outstanding. Runs really good. Thanks for watching. I hope this helps you out.